They were some of Hollywood's most talented and celebrated actors, praised by critics, adored by fans. But when they stepped onto Martin Scorsese's set, things didn't go as planned. Creative tensions exploded, egos clashed, and what should have been career-defining moments turned into legendary feuds. These 6 actors didn't just miss out on working with one of the greatest directors of all time, they earned his lasting disdain. Discover the shocking stories behind the stars Scorsese never forgave or forgot. Few grasp this principle more profoundly than Martin Scorsese, a director whose obsession with cinematic excellence has shaped the face of American film for over 50 years. From the harsh realities of Taxi Driver to the lavish chaos of The Wolf of Wall Street, Scorsese has created narratives that peel back the layers of human behavior, revealing our darkest urges and deepest desires. "There's a lot of truth in the stories I put in my movies," he once admitted, acknowledging that many of the people depicted were still living. But behind the camera, Scorsese possesses a temperament as intense as the troubled souls that often inhabit his films. While he's cultivated groundbreaking collaborations with acting powerhouses like Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio, not every star has found a lasting place in his tightly guarded creative circle. Several acclaimed performers have clashed with his perfectionist approach, confronting the full force of his high expectations and artistic rigidity. These weren't just standard creative disagreements, they were confrontations between opposing visions of storytelling. As Scorsese once famously said, "Cinema is a matter of what's in the frame and what's out." And for 6 notable actors, what remained out of the frame was Scorsese's approval, an elusive validation they would never earn, leaving behind echoes of tension that often altered their professional paths. James Caan's explosive presence seemed tailor-made for the brutal masculinity of Scorsese's universe. But their attempt to collaborate in the mid-1970s became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Riding the momentum of his performance as Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, Caan attracted Scorsese's attention during early development for Italian American, a character-driven film set in Little Italy. "There was danger in Jimmy," Scorsese recalled in a rare interview. "He had the realism I wanted, but ideas that went against my instincts." Things came to a head during a rehearsal session in which Caan improvised large portions of the script, triggering a now infamous outburst from Scorsese. According to crew accounts, it was a fiery scene. Caan later reflected, "He wanted improvisation, but only his version of it. There's a line between creative freedom and chaos." The project quickly unraveled, with Scorsese citing creative conflicts while privately telling peers that Caan was unmanageable. Though both men continued to thrive professionally, their creative relationship never recovered, leaving behind a tantalizing what could have been in film history. The tension between Scorsese and Mark Wahlberg during the production of The Departed offers a more recent example of conflicting creative energies. Wahlberg, cast as the fiery Sergeant Dignam, brought his trademark Boston edge to the part. At first, Scorsese appreciated his authenticity. "He had the grit I wanted," the director noted, but they disagreed strongly on the emotional layers of the character. Disputes reached a boiling point while filming Dignam's aggressive office scenes, with Scorsese demanding a quieter intensity beneath the surface, something Wahlberg struggled to capture. "He kept yelling, 'Less, less,'" one crew member recalled, but Mark thought the character was all about more. Ironically, Wahlberg ended up with the film's sole acting Oscar nomination, an outcome that reportedly shocked Scorsese. Despite keeping things cordial in public, their backstage tension was so well known that Wahlberg wasn't considered for Shutter Island or The Wolf of Wall Street. As Scorsese once told a group of film students, "Sometimes an actor gives you what audiences want, not what the story needs." Julia Roberts' brief interaction with Scorsese during pre-production for The Age of Innocence exposed a mismatch between his obsession with historical detail and her more instinctual, modern style. Originally eyed for the role of Countess Ellen Olenska, later played by Michelle Pfeiffer, Roberts entered a process marked by Scorsese's insistence on era-specific authenticity. "She had this glow that might have worked," he told Film Quarterly, "but there was a modern edge to her I couldn't mold." Matters escalated during a wardrobe fitting when Roberts questioned the suffocating period corsets that Scorsese believed were essential to feeling the character's limitations. "He wanted me to struggle to breathe so I could understand her," Roberts hinted in a later interview, never naming him directly. After a tense disagreement about the character's cultural roots, Robert stepped away from the role. The episode quickly became a whispered tale in Hollywood, a cautionary story of an uncompromising director colliding with a beloved star. As Scorsese bluntly told the New York Times, "In period films, I need actors who disappear into history, not those who bring the present with them." Ryan O'Neal, known for his charismatic screen presence, delivered one of the most disastrous auditions in Scorsese's casting history. Before Robert De Niro was officially cast in Raging Bull, O'Neal, then riding high from Barry Lyndon and Paper Moon, was briefly considered to portray the troubled boxer Jake LaMotta. The audition was reportedly an hour of awkward discomfort in Scorsese's New York office. He looked at the script like it was written in another language. Longtime editor Thelma Schoonmaker later said, "Things fell apart when O'Neal proposed toning down the domestic violence scenes to make LaMotta more sympathetic, a fundamental misunderstanding of what the film demanded." "If you're worried about being liked," Scorsese is said to have told him, "you're in the wrong room." Though O'Neal never directly confirmed the encounter, he referenced similar experiences in his memoir, admitting, "Some directors want raw, others want polished. With Marty, you'd better be bleeding. I've always felt that audiences need something to hold on to, a reason to care," Scorsese once said, highlighting the disconnect between Hollywood's traditional leading men and the morally complex characters that populate his films. "There's a difference between movie stars and what I need," he later told American Film. "I need actors who aren't afraid to be hated." Winona Ryder's behind-the-scenes struggle with Scorsese during the Age of Innocence remains one of the more quietly discussed conflicts in his storied career. Cast as Mae Welland, the polished, seemingly naive bride whose quiet calculation anchors the emotional arc, Ryder found herself torn between her interpretation of the character and Scorsese's rigid vision. "Winona had this inner glow that translated beautifully on screen," Scorsese recalled years later, "but she resisted my interpretation of Mae's awareness, her quiet control over the situation." Tensions escalated while shooting a crucial engagement party scene at the Grand Van der Luyden estate. Production halted for nearly 6 hours as Scorsese tried to extract a particular balance of innocence and manipulation that Ryder wasn't quite capturing. "He'd speak to her in hushed tones for 20 or 30 minutes, remembered production designer Dante Ferretti. "She'd come back with tear-filled eyes, only to have the scene restarted again." As filming continued, onlookers noticed a growing unease between director and actress, particularly during the later scenes where Mae subtly reveals her pregnancy. Script supervisor Martha Pinson recalled in Sight and Sound how Scorsese obsessed over achieving a flawless blend of social restraint and emotional sharpness. Winona wanted to soften Mae, make her relatable, but Marty believed vulnerability diluted her strength. Though Ryder earned an Academy Award nomination for the role, she was noticeably absent from most of the promotional circuit in the film's official commentary. Years later, when asked if they might work together again, Scorsese offered a telling remark. "Winona shines in specific roles. Mae Welland demanded something else." The friction left a lasting impression. Ryder was never again approached for a Scorsese project. As he confided to costume designer Sandy Powell, "Sometimes the path to a great performance is so hard, you can't imagine taking it again, even if the result works." Jim Carrey's almost collaboration with Scorsese stands out as one of the most fascinating mismatches in modern Hollywood. At the height of his career following The Truman Show and Man on the Moon, Carrey was briefly in talks to portray Howard Hughes in a darker, more psychologically driven version of what later became The Aviator. Scorsese was intrigued by the idea. "Jim had a wild energy that could have captured Hughes's brilliance and madness," he said in an old premiere interview, "but it had to be tightly controlled." The process unraveled quickly during a character workshop at Scorsese's Manhattan office. According to Ferretti, Carrey arrived brimming with ideas, even physically acting out the progressive deterioration of Hughes in elaborate fashion. "Martin barely said a word," Ferretti noted. "You could feel the room freeze." The fundamental issue emerged over how strictly the script would be followed. Scorsese's precision-based method demanded disciplined line delivery and internal focus, while Carrey preferred to find the performance through improvisation. Afterwards, Scorsese reportedly told producer Barbara DeFino, "There are 2 types of acting brilliance. Jim has one of them, but it doesn't work with how I build a film. The project eventually fell apart, with Carrey moving on to Bruce Almighty and Scorsese reshaping the film into what we now know as The Aviator, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Reflecting years later at an NYU masterclass, Scorsese explained, "Some actors create within their own world. My films demand that they enter mine." Although the pairing never happened, it remains a powerful reminder of how even immense talent can falter when creative visions don't align. Carrey, in a later interview, summarized it best. "Sometimes the greatest blessing is the door that doesn't open." The dynamic between actors and directors is always important, but in Scorsese's world, it becomes an artistic battlefield. The 6 actors who clashed with him weren't lacking in skill. They simply couldn't conform to a vision built on exactitude, discipline, and a fearless dive into moral ambiguity. Their stories reflect what makes Scorsese unique: an unwavering belief that truth in cinema lies not in compromise, but in devotion, often bordering on obsession. Want more stories about the legends, the clashes, and the untold drama behind Hollywood's greatest films? Hit subscribe and join us for the next behind-the-scenes journey into the world of iconic cinema.